So if you've been following the channel since January, you know that we're putting a good emphasis on solo development this year. And there's a topic that I really needed to throw in that I don't hear a lot of drum teachers talk about, but is super important. And that's soloing to really slow tempos. Now, while you're learning how to solo, while you're trying to develop this skill, one of the most beneficial things that you can do to make that happen is to practice soloing to really slow tempos. So in this video, I'm going to give you 5 important reasons why you might want to consider doing this. And I'm also going to show you how you can start to practice playing to slower tempos, give you my sort of approach to it. And then I'm also going to offer you right now a practice tool. The track that I played just now off of the top, that's off of my album, Solo Comps for Drummers, and it's available for download. I suggest and highly recommend that you download this track. It's just a 5-minute loop that you can practice your chops, soloing over it, all that kind of stuff. It's really going to help you sharpen that knife while you're working on it. So, link will be in the description box. You can download just the track itself, or you could do me a solid and download the whole album. So first, let me give you these 5 tips, and then afterwards, I'll give you some tips on how to practice at slower tempos. Now, before we get to that, I just need to take a little commercial break. For those that are new to the channel and you're digging this t-shirt, I got a shop full of these, man. This is a Beatdown exclusive. I have an online shop full of really cool t-shirts and hoodies for drummers. Make sure you hit that link in the description box after this video and go do you some shopping. Every single shirt in the shop is designed by me. So, I mean, if that ain't enough of an incentive, I don't know what else to tell you. So that's it for today's announcements. Let's get to the lesson. So if soloing to slower tempos is not something that you've ever tried yourself, I can tell you that it can be a challenging thing. Like, it's not the same as chopping out at a faster tempo, because everything slows down, man. And because everything slows down, all of the notes you're playing, you know, the spaces get bigger between those notes, and it's a little bit harder to keep things nice and steady. Now, admittedly, I've never, ever had to play a solo at a very slow tempo on stage. But that ain't the point to this. The point of practicing this is because of all of the benefits that are involved in doing this. So let's get into it, man. It's my top 5 reasons why you want to start practicing your solos at really slow tempos. Number 1, discipline. Now, when I say discipline, I mean discipline in many different areas. Your timing, number 1. When you're playing at really slow tempos, you're forcing yourself to hold back, right? It's not the same as chopping out at 130 or 145 or whatever, right? You can't get excited or your timing is going to be rushed. So when you're practicing at slower tempos, it forces you to hold back and settle and really take your time with what you want to say. Another area that will affect is your dynamics, all right? Discipline in your dynamics, because when you're practicing at really slow tempos, sometimes that also means being able to adjust your volume, you know, depending on what it is that you're playing, but your sensitivity comes into play as well, because you're not always going to be way up here volume-wise when you're playing at really slow tempos. So it's also going to help you to develop your dynamic flow, right? Just sort of create that nice tension that you can also do later on, like when you play at faster tempos. But at the slower tempos, it really starts to develop. Reason number 2 is that it develops serious control. Now, if you stuck with the channel all last year, you know it was a year of the hands. We did a whole bunch of work on the hands, on the practice pad, and on the drums and stuff. When you're doing this kind of thing, it's really going to help to sharpen that knife. Being able to play things like double strokes, paradiddles, 5-stroke rolls, flams, all of that kind of stuff at slower tempos is a very, very good practice for control and hand development. Now, it might sound like it's a pretty easy thing to do, but trust me on this, man. When you're trying to play like a double paradiddle around the toms and stuff, you might be a little bit surprised at just how much extra work it's going to take to get all of those strokes nice and even. So yeah, it's totally great for developing control around the drums. Reason number 3, subdivision awareness. Now we're going to get into this. This is going to be sort of the second part of this particular lesson here. But basically, practicing at really slow tempos is going to force you, because I'm going to force it on you, but it's going to force you to pay a lot more attention to the subdivisions that you're playing. The subdivisions are your alphabet, right? So you always want to be aware of what it is that you're playing. Don't just be satisfied with how to play something. You want to be able to know what's behind it. Being able to play something is one thing. Being able to play something and explain what you played afterwards is more important. Reason number 4, it's going to really develop your timing. That internal clock of yours is going to get supercharged every time you practice soloing at slower tempos. Because everything that you know how to do, you're going to be doing at a much slower BPM. That makes you intensely aware of your meter. You have to be. The reason why this is basically is that you have to pay much more attention to the pulse, the quarter note, right? Because everything that you're going to play is going to be around this. So you want to make sure that, while you're playing all of this stuff, you're focusing on that quarter note so that everything that you land around it sits nice and square on the grid. Remember, as you slow the tempo down, the space between your notes increases. And because of that, it's a little bit more difficult to keep them all even. So yeah, this is going to be super great for developing your timing. And reason number 5, and probably the most important one, as far as I'm concerned, it forces you to relax while you're playing. There's no way possible that you can sound smooth at slow tempos if you're tense. The best example that I can think of this is Steve Gadd. If you've ever seen Steve Gadd play at slower tempos, he is the epitome of relaxation when you watch any drummer play at those really slow tempos. He's just so relaxed, he's almost slouched over, and everything that he's playing just sounds like butter. There's no way that you can do that if there's any tension in your body. So this is going to help you to practice relaxing the hands, relaxing your entire upper torso, your legs, everything. And as a result, you're going to end up sounding way smoother. Everything sounds better and flows better when you're completely relaxed around the kit. And it pretty much kind of starts with the hands. So in order for you to get all of that technical stuff out at slower tempos, there's no choice in the matter, man. Your hands have to be nice and loose. So now, let me show you how you can start to practice along to the song that I mentioned off the top that you can download. Hopefully you will, so you can start practicing along with it. And yeah, I'm just going to give you my approach on how to practice along with this. So this particular song is called Silky Loop on the album. And it's actually listed as 125 BPM. I think that's just what I recorded it at, but technically it's half of that. So it's about 62.5 beats per minute. Now, when you're trying to improvise at that slow of a tempo, it's really tough to come up with something to say. So one approach that I can suggest to you is just to eliminate that whole sort of creative thought process right at the beginning, because you're not going to come up with anything clever at that tempo. So what we're going to do is start with the subdivisions. So all we're going to do is determine which subdivisions we're going to want to work with during this solo. So if I turn on this click, right, that's our tempo. boom, crack, boom, crack. What I want to do now is think of which subdivisions I'm going to want to use during whatever it is that I'm going to play. All right. So these are basically your options. These are your building blocks to what you're going to play. So right away, I can think I'm probably going to want to start at, I guess at this tempo would be the 8th note triplet. So that would be 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3. Right? That would be the first one. The second one would be the next one up. 16ths would work fine with this. 3, 4. Right? Next one after that would be just fine. 16th note triplet. 1, 2, 3, and something like that might end up being like my main sort of subdivision that that I'll be using for phrasing, and then I just bounce back and forth to the others. And then we're at a slow enough tempo that you can move to the next one up. So if you want to throw some 30 seconds in there, that works as well. 3, 4, All right, so those are your 4 options. 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you can consider those sort of your rhythmic templates for what it is that you want to play. Now, if you remember all of the exercises that we did at the top of the year, my progressive subdivision sub-series, where we were practicing improvising at each individual subdivision, that all applies here, all right? So these 4 subdivisions that we just determined is going to work with this tempo, you have all of those options. So if you've been doing those exercises, now you can start working with, if you want, you can work with just the click for a while, right? And then just practice moving in and out of those subdivisions. Right? That pretty much is what you're going to be practicing around the drums. All right? So you're going to take those blank subdivisions and then start adding color to them. This kind of eliminates the pressure and the need to have to come up with anything super clever and musical. Right now, all you want to do is start practicing the subdivisions along with the music. Later on, after you get used to it, then you can start packaging it up in, nice short little sections and then adding the musicality onto it. So playing off of some of the shots that you're hearing in the track and stuff like that, emphasizing some areas. But right now, you're just concerned with the subdivisions. So that's how you're going to do it, man. So if you want to do each individual subdivision at a time, it's perfect. If you want to do it that way, if you're confident enough to just start, working with all 4 and working on your flow in and out of each one, that's fine too. But essentially what you're going to end up doing is like the same exercises that you were doing before in that progressive subdivision series, but now you're just going to be doing it to music. So if you're unfamiliar with my progressive subdivision series, make sure you check those videos out, or at least some of them. It's just gonna help to put all of this, what we talked about here today, in context so you know what we're talking about. For the rest of y'all, you know what to do with this already. So go ahead, man, download the track, have some fun with this, all right? Playing the music is one of the best ways to practice. Always has been, always will be. So thanks for watching this video, man. Drop a comment below. Let me know what you think of it. New viewers, if you're new to this channel, this is your first video, you dig it, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Then after that, hit that notification bell so you know when the next video is coming out. Don't forget to check out the merch shop, man. Grab yourself a cool t-shirt for the summer. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. See you next video.